So it's Ryan, right? I think we both agree that science is something um, that trained experts do in communities, and different communities study different aspects of what is called the natural world. Um, the natural world, when we ask what is it, um, we can't really give a scientific answer to that question. um, we have to begin to give a metaphysical answer to that question. So when someone like Richard Dawkins writes a popular book called The God Delusion and uses as evidence for the non-existence of um, a deity, Darwin's theory of evolution, he's transforming science into a form of cultural creation. And when I say science, I really just mean the method of um, scientific experimentation and hypothesis and eventually theory construction. There are certain um, norms in this area, and the scientific community agrees um, to follow these norms. And only certain kinds of information is deemed valid or admittable in the court of scientific truth. So, um, for Richard Dawkins to use the authority of uh, science, the scientific method, in order to wage his own particular form of cultural warfare, um, he's transforming science into morality, and that's what often happens. And I don't think we can avoid it, but it's important to recognize that Richard Dawkins' arguments, um, when he's in dialogue with religious people, are not scientifically valid or provable or anything. They are his um, attribution of moral worth to a particular way of understanding some scientific conceptions and theories from his particular field of biology. Um, so that should be recognized. But I wanted to read an essay or a short little two-page piece here by Erwin Schrödinger called "Science Cannot Touch It," and it's in Ken Wilber's book "Quantum Questions." And Schrödinger writes, "The scientific picture of the real world around me is very deficient. It gives a lot of factual information, puts all our experience in a magnificently consistent order, but it is ghastly silent about all and sundry that is really near to our heart, that really matters to us. It cannot tell us a word about red and blue, bitter and sweet, physical pain and physical delight. It knows nothing of beautiful and ugly, good or bad, God and eternity. Science sometimes pretends to answer questions in these domains, but the answers are very often so silly that we are not inclined to take them seriously. So, in brief, we do not belong to this material world that science constructs for us. We are not in it, we are outside. We are only spectators. The reason why we believe that we are in it, that we belong to the picture, is that our bodies are in the picture. Our bodies belong to it. Not only my own body, but those of my friends, also of my dog and cat and horse, and all of the other people and animals. And this is my only means of communicating with them. Moreover, my body is implied in quite a few of the more interesting changes, movements, etc., that go on in this material world, and is implied in such a way that I feel myself partly the author of these goings on. But then comes the impasse, this very embarrassing discovery of science, that I am not needed as an author. Within the scientific world picture, all these happenings take care of themselves. They are amply accounted for by direct energetic interplay. Even the human body's movements are its own, as Sherrington put it. The scientific world picture vouchsafes a very complete understanding of all that happens. It makes it just a little too understandable. It allows you to imagine the total display as that of a mechanical clockwork, which, for all that science knows, could go on just the same as it does, without there being consciousness, will, endeavor, pain, and delight and responsibility connected with it, though they actually are. And the reason for this disconcerting situation is just this, that for the purpose of constructing the picture of the external world, we have used the greatly simplifying device of cutting our own personality out, removing it. Hence it is gone. It has evaporated. It is ostensibly not needed. In particular, and most importantly, this is the reason why the scientific worldview contains of itself no ethical values, no aesthetical values, not a word about our own ultimate scope or destination, and no God, if you please. Whence came I? Whither go I? Science cannot tell us a word about why music delights us, of why and how an old song can move us to tears. Science, we believe, can, in principle, describe in full detail all that happens in the latter case in our sensorium and motorium, from the moment the waves of compression and dilation reach our ear to the moment when certain glands secrete a salty fluid that emerges from our eyes. But of the feelings of delight and sorrow that accompany the process, science is completely ignorant, and therefore reticent. Science is reticent, too, when it is a question of the great unity, the one of Parmenides, of which we all somehow form part, to which we belong. The most popular name for it in our time is God, with a capital G. Science is very usually branded as being atheistic. After what we said, this is not astonishing. If its world picture does not even contain blue, yellow, bitter, sweet, beauty, delight, and sorrow, if personality is cut out of it by agreement, how should it contain the most sublime idea that presents itself to the human mind? The world is big and great and beautiful. My scientific knowledge of the events in it comprises hundreds of millions of years. Yet in another way it is ostensibly contained in a poor 70 or 80 or 90 years granted to me, a teeny spot in immeasurable time, nay, even in the finite millions of milliards of years that I have learnt to measure and to assess. Whence come I, and whither go I? That is the great unfathomable question, the same for every one of us. Science has no answer to it. So I'll leave it at that.